Years back, I was talking to my friend Matt, and we found that we both had a similar idea, to make an instant messenger app that only used emoji. I'm not sure we thought it was a good idea, but we thought it was an idea. It'd make a decent joke at least, and the alternative was not making it. So rather than put in all the effort right away, I quickly cobbled together just a plain website that would take your email address and the username that you wanted, and the username had to be an emoji, and it would pre-register you, just so we could gauge interest and see if it was actually worth making. Matt and I figured no one would sign up because, well, why would they? We were wrong. 30,000 people signed up in the first few days. It went viral, and that was just the sign-up form. We didn't even have an app yet, but it went viral. So then we were faced with some pretty grim realities. It took us far too long to build the app, and we only just had some of the skills that we needed. We had a lot to figure out really quickly. Not to spoil the ending, but while the eventual app did technically work, it wasn't successful. Very few people ever used it more than once, and while it was a great joke, it wasn't a good idea for an app. An instant messenger that only uses emoji is not actually useful. It didn't solve a problem. It actually created one. It made the user's life more difficult. And for us, it created a whole load of other problems. We didn't take a look at our competition. Messenger apps are a dime a dozen. They're everywhere. If what you want is a new messenger app, and you have the money, you can just get in touch with a company that makes white label apps, identikit things that you can pick off the shelf and slap your own name on. What would differentiate ours from all of those? Next, we had to think long and hard about privacy issues. This was before the new GDPR regulations, those things that cause a little pop-up about personal information on every single website that you visit. But even then, it was tricky. Emoji might not seem like sensitive data, but if your username was two men holding hands, that's really personal information about someone. Plus, there were platform issues. We launched on iPhone only. We couldn't even be bothered to make it work on Android to start off with. And unlike just a static website, things tend to break rather easily with apps. You have to keep updating for new phones, new screens, new security requirements, or your app will break. There is a lot of upkeep involved. And finally for this rant anyway, there were other problems as well. Finally, we created a technical support nightmare for ourselves. Our users had issues. I mean, technical problems. Some of them probably had issues as well, but that's a whole other thing. Stuff that we thought was extremely basic would lead to messages. One tech support request seriously asked, why can we only use emoji? Which is actually a really good question. Look, what I'm trying to say is, you probably don't want to actually do this. You will probably regret building your app, but if you've got this far, that probably isn't going to stop you. So, let's talk about how to build an app.
If you can run, follow me. Now!
Don't look back, they're right behind you. Just keep running.
So, when you came up with the idea for Zombies Run, how did you know it was a good idea? How did you know to push forward with it?
So it really came from two places. I'd been wanting to make a running app, a running game for smartphones for a long time. You know, when I was a kid at school, you had to do cross-country running, and it was just the most painful experience I could think of, just getting a stitch all the time. It probably wasn't even that long, like 2 miles. And when I went to university, I thought I need to start running more, exercising more. I bought a GPS watch and all these gadgets. Then I got an iPhone, and I thought, this is kind of interesting. It's useful to know how fast I'm running and how far I'm running, but it's still really boring, and it's still really painful. And I thought, why hasn't someone made a running game, but really importantly, a running game that doesn't need you to look at your phone all the time? Because it sounds obvious, but why, if you're running, you can't be looking at your phone like Pokemon Go. You just can't. You'll run into the water or something. So the idea was, someone should make an app where it's just audio only and you're running and you hear a story. So that's kind of one thing. I just knew that I wanted this app. And I didn't know whether anyone else wanted it, but I knew that I would really like it if someone made this thing. And I think it's really important that, it's something that if you would use it, that's at least one user. It doesn't mean there's any more than one user, but it's a good start.
That's fair, because the app I made as a joke, and if I'd have thought about it, I wouldn't have actually used it. I was more interested in the gag than the actual product.
It's not like every app you make has to be for yourself, but it is a really good starting point.
What was the path from that initial idea to actually building the app?
So this was the first app we'd ever made. So, and I don't recommend, like you have to make your first app one day. Some people will make an app for another company and then they'll make their own app. For us, this was still 2011, and so it was still early days in the iPhone world. And we did a proof of concept. We wanted to be sure that we could track a runner and play audio and mix that in with music, the user's own music, at the same time. And we knew that if we could do those three things, then everything else theoretically would come from that, because we knew that we could do good writing, we could sort of execute it.
Did you have to assemble a team, or was this just folks you had that you knew?
So this is folks that we had that we knew. The company is Six A Start. This is a company that I co-founded several years ago, and we had done a lot of work, consultancy work and work for hire for companies like Disney and the BBC and Channel 4, making like games and online things. And so we already had a small team, but it was very small. It was like 3 people. Basically, the perfect team to make this thing. But then again, that's sort of where the idea came from. We sort of just rejected all the other ideas that did not fit with the team that we actually had or the money that we had. And I think that's really important because so often I get people emailing me or saying, I've got this amazing idea for, Pokemon Go, but with zombies. And it's like, okay, like I've got a great idea as well, but I don't have the team and I don't have, the money to do that. And so it's really about the art of the possible.
Was there a point where you went from, oh, well, this is an idea, it might work, to, oh, this is a thing that people want?
It was a Kickstarter. We did a Kickstarter to raise a budget to make this game. And so before that, we were a little bit worried because, it doesn't cost a lot of money to do a Kickstarter. We didn't have to build the app, but we did have to do a video and we did have to go and make some mock-ups and things like that. So we put it onto Kickstarter and we told our friends in the press and in the media, and it just blew up. Over the course of a month, we got about 3,500 people pledging about $75,000. Which
that's a lot between them.
Yeah, it's a lot between them, and it was like $20, which is kind of an amazing amount to pay for a game that doesn't exist.
Particularly for an app.
For an app, exactly, because no one pays anything for apps these days. And so when you kind of think about it, $75,000, it is actually quite a small amount of money,
on a big production budget.
Yeah.
That sounds like a huge amount as a number, but the minute you have to start paying developers, writers, animators, artists, that goes quickly. Yeah,
and we spent more than that amount of money in making the game. But what it showed us is people are really excited about this game. But just as important as the pledges that we got on Kickstarter were the fact that I think something like 30 or 40,000 people liked it on Facebook. And we got covered on BBC News, on NPR, and all these places, people talking about this crazy new zombie running app. And so we thought, okay, this has just gone viral. And this is an idea that we don't need to market. It's just spreading by word of mouth. And we thought, okay, we're just going to stop doing everything else in the company. We're going to wind down all other projects, and now we're just going to work on this game.
So let's talk about the new idea I've got for an app, because apparently I haven't quite learned my lesson. Sometimes when you get an idea, it won't leave your head until you at least see if it'll work. And even if it turns out to be a dud, at least I'll have learned something. I have a YouTube series called Things You Might Not Know, and that's the idea for the app. Wherever you are in the world, it will help you find something interesting about whatever's around you. Something that you might not know. It's a trivia machine. It's churning out interesting things based on wherever you are, based on whatever is around the corner. It's not just about being smart, but I do think a lot of people, and my audience in particular, enjoy knowing a little bit about everything, especially as we travel around and discover new places. I might regret this, but let's give it a try. Well, first off, you probably don't need to build an app. There are often better ways to create your idea that won't require the same amount of fuss. If it must be done as an app, great, but make sure there isn't some other easier approach you can take. Second, you will underestimate what it takes to make your app. There will be unknown unknowns, things that you don't know, and there will likely be a lot of them. You're not making a thing, you are making a product. And third, your app must solve a problem. Ideally, someone else's problem. And if you can solve a problem that a lot of people have, well, then you might be onto something. Next time, how to see if your app idea is actually any good.